Thank you for joining Global Meet.
I myself have been in the master data space for over 15 years. I have an engineering background and have been in both the direct and indirect material side of the business from a supply chain and design perspective, as well as the maintenance perspective. So I think I'm fairly well-rounded in the material space. What we're hoping to do today is, first level set and introduce the space, which we'll do through a couple of slides around data cleansing and governance. And then we'll get into the frequently asked questions that we get on a day-to-day basis over the last 12-plus years. So let's get on with that. What we're here to talk about is master data from a material perspective. That has been our primary focus. We do service masters as well, but what we're really talking about today is the item master that you have that is probably a compilation of historical acquisitions and a lack of governance that's very difficult to do data mining against. It typically contains part number, description, supplier name, manufacturer name, technical specifications, stocking codes, SKU numbers, all the stuff that goes around defining what a thing is. So what we're talking about today is the item master. From a Verdantis perspective, we approach the item master from both the historical get it clean perspective, and that is taking all your legacy material item masters from your acquisitions, from your different business units, what have you, that are inconsistent, they're not standardized, and that makes it difficult for you to roll up information. And we take that and we have developed 4 kernels of technology that allow us to standardize, normalize, attribute, rationalize, and enrich that data very quickly, economically, and automatically. So what we do is we get it clean first, and by the way, that suite of technologies has been appealing to some of our more mature clients in the last 4 years. So they've asked us to license that to them so they can do their own batch in, batch out data scrubbing. So we have also provided our harmonized platform for our clients who want to clean their own data. And it's about a 10x force multiplier over traditional ETL merge and match type technologies. The other side of the equation is keeping it clean. Once you've scrubbed your data will degrade at 15 to 20% every year without appropriate data governance. So we developed a bolt-on data governance tool called Integrity that allows you to easily adhere in an automatic fashion to your business rules around data descriptions going forward. So it's a place where your edge users can do search, find, compare, and request. It's a place where your power users can do governance and reporting. It's the ongoing tool that allows clients to keep their data clean as opposed to trying to clean their data every 3 or 4 years because it degrades. So let's get right into the questions. We're going to talk first about the whole material master data management space. One of the first things I get asked, almost on a daily basis is, we don't have an ERP upgrade process going on. Why how can I get management buy-in to go forward with scrubbing my data? And this is typically from the person who's doing a lot of data mining They recognize that they're trying to take roll-ups from multiple ERP and asset management softwares, and they spend the bulk of their time trying to reconcile data as opposed to doing analytics. And, you know, what I tell them, and I tell them based on previous client experience, is that people have gone through this before you have. We have compiled their experiences into a two-tab spreadsheet that will tell you how they have justified their moving forward with data cleansing. Be happy to review that with you and share it with you. Again, it's george.hasty@verdantis.com. But, you know, we have compiled the major value buckets from our clients who have documented and quantified these returns, and we can help you walk through that in the spreadsheet that reflects their learnings. Secondly, what is the minimum item count to consider a third-party data cleansing? In our experience, that's around 70,000, 80,000 items. If you have fewer than that, you can do it in a spreadsheet with a bunch of bodies. But if you get higher than that, it becomes very onerous, and we've seen very few successful homegrown data scrubbing efforts that have been over 80,000 SKUs. So that's been about the threshold that we see between do it yourself and outsource it.
So the one, if I can add a little bit of color there.
Yes, please, Arthur.
Fantastic, George. You know, I think the one exception to this might be if you're looking at slightly lower volumes on a recurring basis. So if you're in a constant roll-up scenario, or you're actively looking to bring on board or onboard multiple plants, mills, et cetera, in the course of the next 2, 3, 4 years, we have seen some success in being able to bring on board, let's say, starting off at 50 to 60,000 SKUs for sort of the initial baseline creation, and then doing incremental deltas on a year-on-year basis is a way to be able to effectively show return on investment to management, you know, if you're looking at ways to make sure that you're getting this funded. But in a standalone or a single instance mode, to George's point, I think 70,000 to 80,000 is a comfortable threshold to keep in mind.
Thank you, Arthur. That's a great point. We do have multiple clients who are on aggressive acquisition strategies, and they're onboarding data year over year, and they just don't have the resources to do it accurately and correctly. So, you know, that's a great point, Arthur. Thank you for that. When is a good time for an MDM project around materials? You know, we find there are 3 primary drivers around which people get cultural support and resources and financing to go about cleansing their material data. The first one is ERP upgrade or consolidation. That's a logical time to pre-plan and cleanse your data, to build it right into the blueprint up front, because at the end of the day, your reporting and information access and analytics is only going to be as good as the data that's in that system. So, you know, ERP upgrades and consolidations consist, you know, as a great driver for a concentrated material data quality improvement project. The second one we see is mergers and acquisitions. You have item masters that are colliding between different histories, and their legacy of description is always different. You know, we have not seen an acquisition yet where they said, hey, guess what, we have the same naming conventions. They don't. So, you know, one of the big shareholder values is is to be able to better consolidate and leverage your supply chain, and how can you do that without a consolidated granular view of the material items that you procure. So we get involved in acquisitions activities to accelerate shareholder value, and we've done that with a number of our clients. And the third area is your good old-fashioned process improvement, right? So we have clients who recognize they've got valued supply chains that they want to extend across the organization, but they can't do that because they don't have a consolidated repository of material data that their extended facilities can see the appropriate parts that they want to buy. So, inventory visibility is a big one. The second one in process improvement is we find a lot of our clients have much more spend under contract than what they procure. And the reason being is because their requesters cannot find the materials. So what we do through cleansed data is help people get more spend on contract. And that can be a huge benefit. I mean, on the order of 18% per transaction. The other one is, equipment availability. Many of our clients have duplicate materials in stock, and they don't know it. And one goes out of stock, they have the same part in stock, a piece of equipment goes down, and now they have, a false stock out. And, while that's a 1, 2, 3% type operation, the cost can be huge. So many of our clients are trying to make sure that they've dialed in exactly what they have in inventory so that when something goes down unexpectedly, they're not caught in a false stock out situation. And better strategic sourcing. I mean, this is an area that, almost all of our clients have done some level of roll-up at a high commodity level. So, you may know how much you spend in powertrain, but that our clients are trying to get down to, what do I spend in flange-mounted gear reducers at a 4-to-1 ratio at 1,800 RPMs. I mean, at that level of visibility, it gives them a much greater negotiating power with their suppliers. So they're able to get, 7, 8, sometimes 10, 15% reductions in a commodity spend based on their ability to really understand their proliferation of duplication and variety. Common definite, we get asked about what's an indirect material all the time. And, depending on who's asking the question, that can be a very different answer. The first paragraph there is the traditional definition. I like to simplify it. I like to present it as anything you don't put into your end product. So while we do master data for direct and indirect, we get asked about indirect all the time. But it's anything that does not go into your end product. So that includes lubricants, that includes, consumables, safety equipment, all those types of things that do not go into what you ship out the door. I like to keep it simple in that way, but, some of our clients, one of my clients, they define it by insurance spares, consumables, MRO, and capital spares. So it depends on your organization. We'd be happy to talk to you about it in more detail. It depends on how you look at your material grouping. So here's the question about the difference between a ubiquitous, all-domain MDM solution versus a domain-specific MDM solution. And when my clients ask me this, and we are focused in materials, direct and indirect, in services masters. That's what we do. they ask me, why don't you do the rest? And you know, quite frankly, it's because we don't add a lot of value there. If you're going to do a customer master, supplier master, that's really pretty much a you know, a merge and match with an Equifax or a D&B, and you got your parent-child, and you've got the correct addresses and contact information. But what we have identified as a value area is materials. Materials is arguably the most complex data domain that most manufacturers will tackle in a master data project. And we've developed a specific set of tools to address those challenges. So, you know, when it comes down to it, and companies look at where they're trying to drive value, they have to ask themselves, do I want a 7-8-figure project across 5-6 data domains, and what value will that provide, versus do I want a 6-figure project across materials and services that's going to be pre-configured, ready to deploy, and time to value in a matter of months. You know, the multi-domains approach, we get it. We support them from a services perspective. So, you know, we're happy to embark on the journey of your choice. But people who don't have the appetite for a multiple-year, 7-figure engagement might find that, you know, our data governance can deliver more value more quickly, more effectively. This is a great question. Should MDM be implemented before ERP upgrade or after? It never ceases to amaze me how many of my clients and prospects have not considered the complexities of cleansing their data prior to an ERP implementation. It's a continual source of amazement for me. If this is the old argument, would you put diesel in your Ferrari? I wouldn't. You're spending tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars on a business transformation. And analytics, day-to-day transactions, and decisions are going to be based on the quality of that data. That should be an integral part of the blueprint for the design of that system. There's no excuse not to have it there. And trust me, we get involved in a lot of implementations where they're like, geez, we're about to go live in 4 months, we've got 300,000 parts, and we didn't account for how we're going to cleanse them. And, you know, we ride to the rescue like the Lone Ranger, but that should be, right, to this question, it should be in your blueprint as to how you're going to improve your material data quality across all domains, not just materials, all domains. This is a very good question as well. What I see, and Arthur may differ, but what I see is that if you've done a good job of cleansing your data, and you're on a single instances of ERP across your organization, and you've got the bodies to do manual governance, and you can keep that data clean, then you probably don't need an automated MDM solution. That's very, very culture specific. But with that said, I have several clients who are on a single instance of ERP who are using our data governance software because the economies of scale are such that it's automated the process and it's made it much easier for them to govern that data going forward. So it depends on the culture of your organization as to how you want to go forward with that governance process once your data is cleansed. Now, with that said, keep in mind, ERP systems, you know, they're text description-based entry, and unless you can stand over the shoulder of everybody entering a new part with a shotgun, you're not going to make them adhere to your data standards. So you're going to have to staff people who vet all those requests manually. So that's the difference.
I mean, just to add a little bit of color there, if I can, George.
Please.
I think, like George, we look at sort of our history over the last dozen years or so, and those shops who are in a single instance and who have a centralized function for managing their material masters can get away with it. I think we've seen almost identically sized organizations with the slight difference of being geographically disparate, perhaps decentralized in their control system and control process, and that yields two things. One is data creep from a quality perspective tends to go down because you don't have a centralized control point. And the second, of course, is these tend to be more dynamic organizations as a rule, and they may have grown and sort of imported operations from acquired companies or plants or mills. So there, too, you end up with a scenario where there's a requirement to get that data aligned at some point. And just as a point of clarification, we often just sort of bucket folks in the manufacturing sector. When we think manufacturing, we are talking about both discrete and process. So whether it be mining natural resources, oil, gas, as well as traditional discrete or heavy industrial manufacturing, the same general constraints around material master holds it true. Thanks.
So Arthur, I'm switching over to you. This is your section.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So what are the common benefits of data cleansing? This is real high level, right? So it's one thing to talk about material master data management or master data management for the material domain, but what are the things that we can expect as users or as end users of an environment where we've got data quality improvement or data cleansing? We ran through some of them in the MDM section that George just did. But the improvement of information quality gives you some immediate real-time benefits. Let's say real-time. These are things that happen as soon as you're done cleaning, right? So almost immediate inventory control improvements. This is both visibility into inventory, the initial identification of duplicate stock, the potential to immediately change your inventory and spares level. And this has the further benefit of reducing stockouts. Right, so plant uptime increases. We've done some modeling with some of our customers that show hard and soft value. So hard cash value in terms of not having to buy things that you just found out you had extra spares of. Opportunity cost savings. And then plant uptime improvement, both from a human perspective as well as an actual sort of a stall in the value chain. A side effect, and it's the one that most CFOs go, oh yeah, I understand this, is reduced inventory holding costs. Right, so part of the data quality exercise identifies duplicates. You now have excess inventory. As you start to burn that inventory down, A, you're not spending fresh money, right? You've already bought these items, so this is effectively less inventory spend. But just as importantly, your holding costs, which effectively top capital, are reduced. Right, so this reduction, depending on your current cost of money, and we all know that at least in the U.S., rates are starting to go back up again. This could be, in the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months, we could see this hitting 1.5% to 2% of your total MRO inventory budget. Increased procurement compliance. As your material master or item master is normalized and standardized, people start to find things easier in those systems that procurement deploys, right? Your procure to pay, your source to settle, your self-service e-commerce platforms. Once the user community can start to use those tools to find the things that they need, they start buying through those processes and platforms that are endorsed and controlled and managed by the company. And we know from analysts' feedback that to buy something that is on contract, that is under management, is on average 18% less expensive than buying something off contract ad hoc. Additionally, you're looking at reduced cost of procurement. If I'm pulling off a catalog or a material master and item master, those items have already been sourced. We've already measured their quality. We know they're good. We know the supply chain. We know how to execute these orders. The actual ability to place an order, get the good in, simply costs the company less. So it's about creating a lower friction environment for getting work done. And then from a procurement or a spend perspective, the ability to rationalize your vendor base as well as limit demand. Something we don't have up here, but if I know that I can standardize across, let's say, 6 or 7 parts down to only 3, I can now aggregate demand for those 3. I can increase their volume, therefore take advantage of volume level agreements. I also have now a simpler logistics and supply chain / inventory spares model to worry about. So both my costs and of the initial purchase and now my ongoing costs of management are simply reduced. By being able to manage my vendor base, this could be both reducing the total number of vendors. For many procurement organizations, this is a checkbox, or simply right-sizing my vendor base. Right. So for these critical categories, I have 3 or 4 main vendors. For these other sort of commodity or incidentals, I may have local, cheap, whatever I need, thousands of vendors. But from a rationalization perspective, I'm ensuring that I have the right vendor for the right kind of commodity or right kind of service. With the clean data, you have the ability now to really leverage the reports and information within the ERP, within your P2P, and get that level of spend analysis, spend visibility, and therefore spend optimization to look at ongoing cost reductions. Typically, the ability now to sort of source globally, because you've got item attributes, you can do a better comparison, apples to apples, unless you're buying carrots. If you're buying carrots, you know where you can buy them from and at what cost given identical qualities. We have customers today who have just about funded their ERP or MRP or EAM upgrade projects based on 18-month savings tied to procurement and reduced inventory costs. So George was throwing around some pretty scary numbers, 7, 8, occasional, 7 and 8 digit numbers. It's not uncommon to see savings that are in that 7 to 8 digit range within 12 to 18 months. Again, based on your current maturity. So how much time does data cleansing take? How long, what's the process, and what does it cost? Everybody wants to know how much it costs. So we'll start with that last, and then we'll just go into what's it take in terms of time. At Verdantis, we use some very specialized engines and things that we've built and deployed. And George mentioned earlier, we also sort of license those out to those kinds of mature or shops that have requisite teams in place to support the data cleansing initiatives. The software itself can run in the hundreds of thousands of records per hour. And that is for the categorization. Let's say the application of UNSPSC or E-Class or EOTD, and then extracting technical characteristics and attributes at a rate of about 50,000 records per hour. So you might say, Arthur, I've got 500,000 SKUs. I'd like to know how long it's going to take. And can you do this for me in an afternoon? The reality is that we need to provide, in a turnkey mode, quality assurance. You got to do some lookups. You need to validate these things out. So if we look at self-service, these kinds of projects, let's say 100,000 SKUs, can be done by us or by you in about 3 months. But it's not a linear scale. If you were running 1 million SKUs, we could see 1 million SKUs sometimes in 12 months or maybe 15 months, depending on the number of languages and the diversity in the data types. So, you know, the reality, I think, for many of us is if you're doing an 80-20 rule, you could easily get a project started that shows near-term value in a calendar quarter and do a full project in less than a calendar year. Cost-wise, you know, everything has value, everything has a cost, but effectively for, you know, turnkey pricing, it's really just based on the number of records that need to be processed. And for self-service, it's a provisioning and software as a service install. So very little costs for integration on your side, and it's really pretty painless. You know, certainly George would welcome an outreach as a result of today's session or at any time at george.pasti, P-A-S-T-I, at Verdantis.com. And of course, I'm available afterwards. We can talk in detail.
Absolutely, Arthur. Thank you for that.
Sure. So George, tell us about data governance.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the governance piece now. So a lot of our clients early in our career 12 years ago had cleansed their data with us, and then 3, 4, 5 years down the road, their data was bad again. And we see, you know, 15 to 20% degradation in your item master descriptions without governance. So the answer to this question is you absolutely need governance. Either you throw bodies at it, you throw technology and centers of excellence at it, but whatever you do, it's important to understand that this is a journey and not the destination. Once you've cleansed your data, you've just started. Now you got to keep it clean. And, you know, there are, you know, our ROI model, whatever, will help you understand that you want to protect your investment, right? You just spent a lot of money on an asset management software, ERP, you know, e-procurement system, you name it, and it's only going to be as good as the data that's in it. So keeping that data clean should be a priority. And we've got solutions that help keep that data clean going forward. In fact, we have a client who is second largest company in the world who is onboarding 40,000 suppliers through our technology. So we're pretty confident about our ability to help our clients dial in the right solution for them. And if the governance is through another a provider, that's fine. We'll do the services work for you. But just be advised that keeping it clean is something that has to happen. And you can make it as heavy lifting as you want to by just throwing manual resources at it, or you can automate it through a domain-specific software application. Oh, this is a good one. My ERP vendor is providing a data governance solution. Do I need something else? Most multiple domain data governance solutions are not material specific. As an economic breakdown, when we see an ERP upgrade, savvy companies who understand the material, or I should say data quality improvement challenges, they'll budget 10% for data quality improvement. 4% of that typically goes towards materials because it's the most complex domain. So if you decide that you want to go with the big bang MDM, SAP, MDG, take your pick, multi-domain solution, you're looking at 7 or 8 figures and multiple years. We can be the most economic engine around the materials piece of that for you. So we work with that every day. 70% of our customers have, MDM solutions, and most of them are ours, of course, but we support data governance solutions across the board. We can provide the taxonomy, the commodity coding, the material coding, the attribution, the descriptions, all that in a standardized format that you can then load into your data governance solution of choice. So we support that environment. It comes down to the culture and direction of your organization. If they're looking for something fast and cost efficient, then we can provide the governance around materials and services. If they're looking to do the big bang across all data domains, then we can provide the data services across the materials and services spectrums. Arthur, I think this is back to you.
Fair enough. And we had a question that came up from one of our attendees on data governance, which I'll address now, I guess, if that's okay with everybody. The question was rather specifically, not what you're seeing on screen, but this was just sort of a side comment. When it comes to data governance in an ERP environment, what's the real value of having a separate data governance solution? And the individual had likened it to sort of a punch-out from a procurement perspective. In many ways, yes. If you're running in a multi-environment where I've either got multiple EANs or multiple ERP instances, having a common data governance platform can also be tied to your procurement catalog or your item master, even your product master for those that are looking at a retail kind of environment. That style of data governance allows different systems to punch out or to have actual users punch out and sort of drop into that approval request flow that can be treated as a separate work stream. This is ideal for those organizations that have an in-house governance team, as well as those that may have a third party providing service around either new item entry, new item enrichment, or even source of supply discovery. So we can certainly cover that more at the end of the session as we get into general Q&A. So our question is about Verdantis MDM, back to what we see on the screen here. Why does Verdantis limit itself to Material Master? Since we started, we've always had, and this typically comes from existing customers, who've got a great experience with the Material Master, and then they say, hey, why can't you do this with a Product Master? Why can't you do this with a Service Master or a Customer Master? And to answer that, by the way, we have, over the years, expanded from just indirect or MRO to also including direct raw material, finished product, as well as purchased service masters. But we have sort of stayed away from things like supplier and customer, simply because supplier and customer sort of cleansing is really we call it sort of a match game. If I have a EIN, for those of you in North America, or I have a DUNS, or an Equifax number, or a BVD, for those of you maybe coming in from Europe, if I've got a BVD ID or an Equifax number or a DUNS number, these can be simply provided to the clearinghouse, and you get sort of official government registered data in most parts of the world. Emerging markets or brand new entries, you'll get shaky data, but it's pretty straightforward. That is absolutely not the case when it comes to material. So we do what we do because A, it's hard. And because it's hard and we do it well, we add value. As long as we continue to add value, we'll continue to do that. For those extensions, and as I mentioned, we've breached out or into other areas. In the most recent case, we've been working on direct material and even some finished product by helping organizations reverse engineer their drawings, letting our software do a bulk of the work and then providing a facilitated or an enriched workflow to our customers' teams for further enrichment and quality improvement.
Well, Arthur, I think it warrants mention that our technology can scrape their PDFs
so absolutely.
that we can extract that data in an automated fashion. It's what 85% automated, but compared to putting bodies at desks and trying to extrapolate that data, it's a huge force multiplier, and we've seen that successful in a number of clients, and I just wanted to bring that up, and I'll turn it back over to you.
No, excellent point, and that is true, right? So if it's 85%, we'll leave 15% remaining. We're still cutting those tasks in half, and we're freeing up an awful lot of resource. And typically, we're freeing up resource that our customers generally don't have anyway. So it really is about enabling, and that's really why we've sort of stuck to that core area, and why we've avoided some of the, I don't say easier to handle, but more straightforward to handle domains. We can go on. Wait, isn't this the same question that we just got asked? Can I use Verdantis tools for other types of data? You can use our tools for pretty much any kind of data that's related to physical assets that you buy or you build, right? And the services that go around it, which I guess is sort of the extension. We've got clients today running this for maintenance repair operations for manufacturing and utilities and processor and oil, gas, and chemical, insurance spares, capital spares, a lot of consumables, right? So that's an extension of sort of the operations side of MRO. We've even got folks who are doing this for, I'll say, campus-like or housing-like environments in, I'll say, remote places of the world, right? Not just, U.S., but we get into, let's say, Middle East, Africa, South America, places where our clients are housing and taking care of their employees. Likewise, for raw material, different grades of coal for power utilities, not that that's a hot prospect anymore, but even iron ore for steel smelting operations. Ingredients in food and beverage products, BCD components in diversified manufacturing, so electronics, fasteners, sub-assemblies, and the like. Product masters, point of sale equipment, display information, goods not for resale. So for those sort of big box environments, fully supported, IT assets, facilities, maintenance, and purchase services. We do have people who occasionally ask us for other types of data. Hey, can I use this to reverse engineer an address? My answer is you could, but why bother? I mean, just take the DUNS number or take the Equifax number and get what you need.
Well, Arthur, I would like to add that, our technology is learned by example. So we have clients who have approached us about, materials that we had never processed before, but they're onboarding all the time. In fact, we had a client that was a group purchasing organization for pharmaceuticals and, hospital supplies. And, they realized that, they're onboarding shunts and stents and those kinds of things all the time. And they needed a more effective way to do it. And they could teach our tool, once, and now it knows it. So, we have a list here of products, but it really comes down to if you can define what it is, we can work with it.
I like it. The next question. We use an internally developed system for managing data and an internal taxonomy. Will Verdantis be a good fit for us? Yes. Our core products, Harmonize and Integrity, are both completely system agnostic. Right? So even if you've got a homegrown system, might have been built years ago, we work with SAP, Oracle, JD Edwards, Maximo, PeopleSoft, etc. Any of the major ERPs or EAMs. As long as data can come out of your system, we can process it. In terms of being able to address the internal taxonomy, we are rather adept and experienced in working with internal taxonomies and internal rule books or specification sheets, whichever your sort of common vocabulary. In fact, 80% of our customers have a hybrid environment where they are classifying to an industry specification as well as to an internal taxonomy. And I would say, a different 80% have modifications to their rule books or their specification sheets specific to their industry. And our time to solution for both of these sort of provisioning and configuration exercises is very, very brief, because this is what we do, and we do it every day. So what is the Verdantis AI, right, the artificial intelligence, like, and how does it work? So artificial intelligence for us forms sort of the bedrock of our solutions. And we determine, or we define sort of artificial intelligence as an environment that learns by example and that is not rules-based. So as it identifies patterns and it identifies human behavior in clarifying or even correcting the output of the software, it learns by the correction itself and uses those clarifications or increase in granularity or specificity or correction and changes its own mathematical algorithms for the next run. This means that while the software may run at anywhere from 50 to 250,000 records per hour, once the data has been processed once and then you've adjusted for one or two items, you can quickly rerun the data, and by rerunning it, those same changes will now be reflected in the algorithm, in the processing, if you will, of the software to drive different results. So rather than the traditional sort of nightmare of if-then-else kinds of rules, the software learns by example and incorporates human perception to behave very much like a human being who was eyeballing the data rather than a piece of software that was reading every single bit and byte. The result is very high performance, very high accuracy, and one that takes the holistic data record in as a rule. We certainly welcome a chance to sort of test that out with anybody who's more curious. Our four core products that we sort of identified earlier on work in sort of a stepwise manner. So that first step is to categorize or classify what an item is. And with that, the software has learned and has applied mathematical weightings to each and every single word in an item description. Once an item has been identified by its category, then the second process, attribute extraction, is run. Because once we know what an item is, what category it falls into, we now have context and meaning for the words within the description. Whether they are exact or fuzzy matched or somewhat misspelled, we've seen, over 100 million records worth of really bad input data, and the software has learned how to accommodate for common abbreviations, uncommon abbreviations, as well as misspelling. So once technical characteristics and attributes have been extracted, then the normalization process, this is what you might associate with the normal ETL, or extraction, transformation, and load process, to end up with common abbreviations, common spellings, common nouns, modifiers, common definitions, if you will, so that you've got a consistent output that lends itself better to the punch-out model that we talked about earlier, or an easier-to-search find material master, This also supports the identification of duplicates. With this information in hand, a category, technical attributes, and a well-defined structure, we're then able to leverage our auto crawl. An auto crawl is effectively a spider system. And right now I think I've got 63 spider machines that will take this information that is in your material master and go out and crawl the web, or crawl your archives, your PDFs, your image library, any SQL databases that you make available to us. And we scrape and crawl and find missing technical attributes to provide not just a more accurately defined material master record, but to fill in missing technical attributes. So that's sort of our AI capabilities. And again, we absolutely welcome the chance to take some of your data and give it a try. Do we work with any ERP? Yeah, we covered that a little bit before. So whether it's a homegrown or whether it's any of the major ERP, MRP, or EAM platforms, we work, I think our largest account ever had 105 different operating systems. I don't mean like OSs, I mean ERP, EAMs, and MRPs across their organization. And they were all tightly integrated into an integrity environment for data governance. So taking data, cleansing it, absolutely. Helping it from a data governance control perspective, also, absolutely. Secret sauce for material data, and of course I know we're heading at the top of the hour, so I'm going to blur through this a little bit. But I think what makes us unique is that we combine a dozen years of large company and some mid-market, mid-sized company experience across a number of industries, a number of languages, and that we have trained or really encapsulated the human experience inside of our software solutions. So that by processing over 100 million records across multiple industries, languages, geographies, we provide a platform that sort of out of the box delivers very high accuracy and a very high level of value. And then we sort of parlay that across our domain experts, which is actually a very small group of folks, to help increase accuracy and deliver on our promised SLAs. And every time we do it, the software gets smarter.
Arthur, thank you for your participation. Your seniority speaks for itself.
Oh, please, my pleasure, and I'm sorry that the rate of speed is typical New Yorker, so I leave it to you.
Wow, okay, thanks. So, in terms of summing this thing up, because as Arthur pointed out, we're getting up towards the top of the hour. We've been doing this for 12 years, but we took a different approach. We took an approach that we want to automate the process. So we've developed automated technologies to help our clients get clean data faster than they could do it themselves. And our clients are telling us it's 10x. And by 10x, I mean it's 10 times faster than what they could do. And so that's testimony to our technology, because the more clients we get, the smarter it gets, because it's got learning by example. So it's really a pre-configured solution that allows us to attack the problem around inconsistent material data very quickly. It's easy for our clients to use because we do SaaS deployment. So there's very little IT conflict because we're outside the firewall, but we're in one of the most secure hosting environments in the world. So we have clients who make weapon systems and deliver nuclear materials, and they are using our hosted solutions. So you should know that it's been vetted by some of the most stringent corporations in the world. Our harmonized solution is unique. I will leave you with that. It is nothing like anything in industry. It completely eliminates the whole rules definition layer by IT. We enable graphically for business users to set the rules. And boom, it's done. There is no back end. It happens simultaneously. The other thing I'd like to say is that if there's an ongoing governance concern, you have multiple instances of ERP or EAM, integrity is something you may want to consider. It's been a very successful bolt-on for a number of our multi-ERP AAM systems clients. We have clients that have, over 7,000 users. So it's something that you may want to consider if you have problems or issues with ongoing data governance around materials and services. So with that, we're wrapping up.
Hey, George, before we wrap up, we've got 2 questions. I was wondering if we might want to answer those before we close.
Go for it.
Perfect. So one person had asked, I didn't get the person's name, can Harmonize be used to compare 2 separate databases if they're outside of an ERP, and then control access to those databases? So just to answer that rather easily, yes, absolutely. So I believe the way it was questioned, can your tool compare data with multiple databases which are not ERP and help cleanse and govern the data? Yes, absolutely. So as long as the data is reachable, I'm assuming it's a relational database, you're absolutely all set. The next question, and I'll wrap that one and give it back to you, George, is is there a complementary data audit or some such? Yes, as we mentioned, we have a pilot set up. And last but not least, my marketing team, or our marketing team, just asked for us to remind you a copy of this webinar, including the audio recording, will be made available to everyone. So do look forward to a link coming in your email. Back to you, George.
Yeah, thank you, Arthur. If there are any other questions, fire them in. I want to thank you all for your time today. I highly encourage you to reach out to us at info@verdantis.com should you have any questions. This is not a sales pitch. This is just us wanting to be involved in the material master data management space. So, call, email. We're happy to respond. We're happy to educate. If we have a fit, great, we'll move forward. If we don't, great, you've learned something. So I want to thank you all for your time and hope we get to speak soon. So thank you for your time, and we'll be ending now because I don't see any new questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.